Silicon Valley trade delegation visited Russia in October 2010. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev gave an impetus to this trip. During his visit to California earlier this year, then Medvedev talked about new innovative initiatives in Russia and has invited leaders of Silicon Valley to come to Russia on a return visit. And here we are. It seems to be the most representative group of Silicon Valley venture capitalists and entrepreneurs ever coming to Russia. The delegation was headed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor of California.
Thank you, Sasha. I think there's extraordinary opportunities. When I spoke to President Medvedev when he was over in California, and I listened to his vision of what he wants to do here, to use every single minute, every second, every hour to go and to find out what can you do to help them and how can you promote business. I want you to be relentless and to go and seek out and find your counterparts and make sure that you drum up some great business. Let's not waste this gigantic trip and this beautiful place. I'm there to represent California businesses, to do whatever it takes in us for us to be successful. So thank you very much. Have a good time. Okay, enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll be back.
Pitch Johnson, one of the pioneers of Silicon Valley, tells what inspired him to join the delegation.
The main purpose of my visit, which was in addition to the rest of the venture capitalists, is to follow through on some conversations I had when President Medvedev visited San Francisco. I met Arkady Volkovich, and he said to me, please let us know what you think about what at Skolkovo, give me some ideas. So I gave him ideas there, and I said, or next time I have the chance to come to Russia, I'd like to visit see what's going on at Skolkovo, and I knew about Rosnano, and of course I've known the Russian Venture Fund for a long time.
First of all the delegates were interested to understand what motivates the Russian leadership to build a venture capital industry in Russia. Therefore, the first day started with the meetings with heads of key ministries responsible for the development of Russian innovation ecosystem. The economic future of our country is closely tied with the development of innovations. And not because the recent crisis demonstrated the vulnerability of national resources-based model, but also because we realize that we have to rely on our competitive advantages, our human capital, our education, our creative potential. Only innovations can give the non-linear output of our efforts. Venture psychologically is a totally different thing in business. You become a partner. What is lacking in Russia to the largest extent? That is when a scientist admits that the businessman will be his partner in the full meaning of the word. Venture plays a great role because it converts the logic of people, the mentality of people. The visit to Skolkovo, the new Russian technopolis, has become one of the key moments of the first day. Rosnano and Russian venture company are the complementary components of the ecosystem development. Rosnano is engaged in the direct investments in large-scale projects. Russian venture company is not making direct investments, but creates a worldwide network for investments in the smaller projects at the earlier stage. Skolkovo is an integrator which should serve as the platform to unite all the elements of the ecosystem.
I think you need to have Skolkovo, get off the ground. But I think Russia should also make some changes that would incent or motivate either internal Russian venture capital firms to get organized, or motivate people from outside of Russia to come in and set up traditional venture capital partnership structures in here and pursue entrepreneurs and opportunities inside the country.
There is no intention to create in Skolkovo a successful isolated area with special preferences. The idea is to build here a working model of the innovation ecosystem, to set up the best practice which could be applied to the entire country. It turns out that Skolkovo is a very special area with a very special legislation. Apart from the fact that Skolkovo is provided by a large number of tax and custom benefits. Now we have zero income tax, we've cut, and this is mostly important, up to 14% the social payment to the budget. All these measures are most needed for startup companies.
And we think it's a good idea for the country, but we think that, there's lots of development capability in Russia today, Siberia, other places. So we see it's important for Russia to have strong innovation throughout the country. And this new project is a way to, I think, we think, enhance that and build upon the base that Russia has. So we'll work with Skolkovo.
There is no wonder that discussions about Skolkovo and its potential, the role of the state in making the project successful, exceeded the bounds of official agenda and lasted through all days of the visit. Well, in Russia, everything is always very interesting and unlike what is happening in other places. The second day of the visit was focused on the meetings with the development institutions engaged in the process of creating innovation industry in Russia at strategic and operational level. One of them was Rosnano. In general, we've got pretty dynamic changes in legislation. Last week we've passed the Skolkovo's law, which is a unique set of benefits. Just yesterday it was announced the decision to introduce incentives of unified social tax for the IT sector. And there were adopted the important amendments to the law on technical regulation, which allows Russia to use the standards of technical regulation of the European Union. And this is extremely important.
Yes, I have a clear understanding of the difference between Rosnano and other venture capital firms in Russia and the whole process of venture capital. I do think that Rosnano represents a forward-looking platform, and I think the rest of the venture industry can benefit from that by adopting some of the techniques, the tax-exempt aspects of Rosnano. So I think the two represent a new vision for Russia in entrepreneurial activities, creating new initiatives, new innovations.
The management of Rosnano Corporation has introduced to the Silicon Valley delegates not only Russia's nanotechnology initiative, but also specifics of the investment climate in Russia. In particular, they talked about the efforts being made by the Russian development institutions to achieve a minimal indulgence in legislation for investors. The dialogue between the members of Californian delegation and Rosnano has ended with discussion of potential joint funds and mechanisms which will help us to provide the flow of the projects.
I'm very optimistic. I think areas like clean tech are very important for breakthrough technologies, both here and in the world, actually. And that's one reason we came to Russia, because we think partnering with certain companies here and with Rosnano as a partner, we can really change a lot of things in the world for the better.
But what is the role of the development institutions in Russia? What the young Russian innovation industry looks like? Who are the faces of this industry? The guests from Silicon Valley could learn this at informal meeting with representatives of Russian startup community, venture capital funds and business angels. The meeting was organized by Russian venture company in the Federation Tower. Many participants of that meeting demonstrated specific interest. Yesterday, Donald Dixon from Trident Capital just took a walk through all the 6 startups that were exhibited in Skolkovo and meticulously questioned chief executive officers of these startups about all the simple details, who, what and why is doing. Asked tricky, corrosive questions, which turned out to be very challenging for the guys. In general, it is evident that he is a person highly interesting to work with.
So first, you have to have a deep passion for the business, for the kind of company you're working with, because the work is very hard and you do not always succeed. I understand new technology, and I look for ways to take new technology to solve big problems. And when I do that, we create big companies and improve the quality of life.
The members of the US delegation were presented a detailed account on the structure and tasks of the Russian venture company and its VC funds, as well as portfolio companies. The parties discussed the prospects of the venture capital business in Russia and the possibility of integrating it into the global venture capital industry. In this wonderful team which we met today, there are indeed the patriarchs of Silicon Valley business. And it is often very interesting to talk to them, because they're highly competent people who went through thick and thin, who are doing this business for 50 years and doing it better than anyone else in the world, and understand how the innovation ecosystem works. For us, the meeting with the delegation had a very high business value. The US visitors noted the growth rate as another attractive factor in the Russian market. How do the venture capitalists make their money? They earn money only on the rapid growth of asset value. This is possible either in a rapidly growing economy or in an environment when you come to the market with a product which is not there yet, which has unique properties and characteristics. And in this context, the Russian market is very attractive, because now, in a certain sense, it is empty. The organizers of the Silicon Valley Trade Delegation wanted to show that Russian innovation potential is not only confined to Moscow, and that there are other points of growth in the country. One of regional innovation clusters is being developed in Tatarstan, 800 kilometers east from Moscow. Innovations and development can't be limited by a certain area. It is necessary to integrate into the global economy, and we must learn from everything that is positive. Innovation is based on the fact that we all think alike and solve the same problems. We just need to take up positions which are the most advanced in the world. The key point of the visit to Kazan was the presentation of startup companies that were set up in Tatarstan.
I was impressed with what has been able to be achieved in a very short period of time. We heard from a number of companies that are interested in, well, one, we heard from some companies already established themselves in Silicon Valley that are going after international customers. And I think that the quality of some of the companies that we heard today certainly have the potential to raise capital in the United States.
This is the first time when so many of these, I would say, gurus of the venture capital industry once appeared here, in Kazan, and they're so available. This is a great joy and an opportunity for us to show ourselves and to correct ourselves. And I think that we'll work even harder to start learning from their experience.
Yeah, I live in fact, in Silicon Valley for 30 years. So I guess I can make my judgment. I was pleasantly surprised by the eagerness of the local government to create something like Silicon Valley. Just the attempt itself is a commending matter. And I was surprised by seeing this facility, incredible facilities that supports this idea, and it was a pure shock to me to see totally different Russia, totally different people with totally different mentality. And I see that here it's a sort of a freedom to create things is present here, which is very important.
Time will tell what would be the results of the dialogue between the US investors and the Russian innovation community. Will it be followed by a stream of deals and projects?
Well, I think these 2 days have been an eye-opener. I have known, I've studied Russia forever, and I've always had a very good feeling about the people here. But having been here now for 2 days, I realize some things that all the reading that you can do won't help you with. I detect it in the air and the attitude. It could be the time for Russia to play a role in the world stage in technology and in entrepreneurism.
What are the first impressions of the Californian delegates?
I was very impressed and very hopeful and very optimistic about what I heard the last 2 days about the understanding that there's a danger of doing nothing, the danger of doing too much. Mr. Vekselberg and Mr. Barrett, who are the leaders of the Foundation Advisory Board, understand this very well. And they'll try to work out a balance so that the country can get going with more entrepreneurs and more venture capital.
We will continue to build our R&D capability in Russia. It's unclear how exactly we'll work with the new center here in Moscow, but I'm sure we'll have a virtual relationship, and I'm sure we'll work with them.
We needed to look at the startups and the entrepreneurs community in Russia. We needed to see how my colleagues from California will evaluate it. After all these visits, after all these activities that we've spent together with this delegation, we'll sit down and ask ourselves, so what exactly have we seen? I hope that maybe we'll decide all together what is the best direction for Russia to go to develop innovations. What will be the next steps to follow this visit? How do organizers assess the results of the first project within the Global Innovation Partnerships initiative? There is no next step here. It is a process which is already going, and one event is layered by another. The most important thing is that we, in my opinion, have reached a critical mass of interaction and partnership, which already can turn into real projects and real results.